Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. The media has went from Trump, and they are now laser focused on my boy JD Vance. I can see why though. Similar mindset to Trump. 2028, baby. Now I watched the interview, and the least controversial part about it is the thing that's causing the most hurt. But before I even start talking about it, you already know what's going to happen. They're going to start talking about how he looks. They're going to start talking about everything about him, everything else but what he actually talks about in an interview. Because usually when a person has good points and they normally are saying things that bring to light things that people don't necessarily notice, people get upset about that because you start exposing people. So what do? They normally do the ad hominem approach. You know what I mean? Start shaming, insulting, guilt, sign language. Shame, insults, guilt, and they need to be right. That's just what people do when they ain't got an argument. Now, the reporter did highlight that it was kind of JD's fault when he answered the Polish reporter, because the answer he gave did not please Zelensky at all. And then when he was explaining how he tried to diffuse it, which in my experience usually causes more problems than you would like to happen. Because what really happens is, when you try to come to solutions, there's quite a lot of people that actually don't want things solved. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people in the news and media that make profit off of things not working out. So you can imagine the hurt he was causing by trying to diffuse it. Then he goes on to explain how after the disagreement, the reporter asked, Zelensky has several times to come back, and even J.D. Vance was like, no, we know there was at least one time he asked to come back. But the issue was, he's saying that Trump acknowledged that they were on two different levels. Trump is laser focused on peace, and Zelensky's not necessarily focused on that. Now, I think the first thing was more controversial to me, at least in my opinion, was that he was identifying that European leaders, what he described as, not me, he's described it as, that European leaders are gassing Zelensky up and saying, yeah, you keep fighting. But when they speak to him in private, they're saying they're almost in line with what Trump's saying. It can't go on forever. Where are you going to have the money and the people? It can't continue. It's unsustainable. And even at one point in the interview, the interviewer asked him, well, they've said this, that, and the third. And even J.D. Vance reiterated, he's like, look, I don't actually care what they say in public. What I actually care about is what they say behind closed doors and in private when they're talking to me. Because he's like, people will play to the crowd when they're in public. And that's absolutely true. Another thing that was discussed was Biden's approach to dealing with Putin. It was basically just insult Putin all the time. That's not really a strategy, is it? That's not going to solve or help anything. So when they're criticizing Trump for just talking to Putin, it kind of doesn't hold water, because Biden just cussed him out and just called him names. And didn't necessarily cuss him out, but he just called him names, and Putin invaded Ukraine on his watch. And Trump's door is still open. He's saying all he requires is that Zelensky has a serious conversation with him about peace. And JD's saying the real issue is that Ukraine's approach has been, or at least when Zelensky speaks to him, is we need the security guarantees, but is unwilling to even speak about peace in any shape, form, or fashion with the Trump administration. The thing I found fascinating is, though, he said when he worked in government for 2 years before he's obviously vice president, that when he would speak to the Biden team and ask them what the plan was, they said, oh, we will just keep sending money and hope that Ukraine wins. Literally, their strategy was hope and money. But the part that everybody's heard about, that I see being repeated the most, is near the end where he goes, the deal that Trump is offering, which is essentially Americans rebuilding the Ukraine, is a much better security guarantee than some random country supplying 20,000 troops. I'm sorry, I don't know why people heard about that. And he's like, they ain't been in war for like 30, 40 years. That's the part that hurt everybody? Like, what? I'm sorry, man. I'm like, really? That's what people are upset about? There's people literally dying in the Ukraine. Russians and Ukrainians have been dying, like hundreds of thousands of them. And that's the part where everybody's offended? Really? This world's crazy. Anyway, I'll holler at y'all. See you on the next one. Take care.